What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode we are heading back to the Federation Survey Service as we continue our coverage of the return of Johnny Ridden. Last time, Rimia and FSS hired Jacobius as a way to keep him in the fight. This allowed them to capture Uma Lightning. Jacobius let FSS handle Uma, but he comes to Lead Wayline bearing a story. In this episode, Jacobius spills the beans to FSS, and we finally learn more about the Minaret. So let's get into this. During the late stages of the One-Year War, the Mobile Assault Force formed. Now in UC-90, the public knows four things. It was under command of Kaiselia Zabi. It consisted of top aces from other units. Their flagship was a Zanzibar-class ship, and they all vanished after the Battle of Abawaku, and any intention behind the formation of this group is completely unknown. After the war, Fedis occupied their former base, Granada, and found a few interesting documents. Jacobius' testimony that he is about to give is the first records of Chimera Corps, but it will have to be labeled top secret for now. FSS records Jacobius' testimony. He was recruited to the Chimera Corps during their second recruitment phase. He was originally under Garma Zabi's command. After his death, he was transferred to Odessa and eventually went up into space. He says this so nonchalantly. If you are Zeon and you survived Odessa, kudos. He was then Bakuve's escort, which is when he received a recruitment letter for the Chimera Corps. It technically isn't a battalion by typical means. It was actually beyond a battalion, with enough engineers, support roles, and of course pilots. It was broken into 4 units. The ace pilot unit was at the center of the battalion, then the support team, followed by the escort team, and lastly, the engineering support team, known as Hydra. Even though the pilots were at the center, Hydra was the heart of Chimera. This was composed of top engineers from Zionic, Zimad, and MIP, the big 3 Xeon players in mobile suits. This birthed the Principality of Xeon, MS Variation Group, which EFF referred to as the first-gen MSV group. They were responsible for the Gelgoog and all its variations. And ultimately, if you haven't figured it out by now, this entire manga is kind of a love letter to the mobile suit variations of the One-Year War. Soon, the Battle of Abawaku took place. Half the forces escaped, while the other half fought in the battle, never to be seen again. The remaining fleet were split and began fighting, only to be caught by Cliff Oxner's units from Luna 2. They surrendered. However, they escaped imprisonment in exchange for all their data and equipment. The formation of the Corps was done by Captain Kelvine, the Mobile Assault Force Intelligence Chairman. He wanted to create an anti-new type unit created of old types. Char joined Kaiselia at the end of the war. Jacobius doesn't know the details at the time, but we know that Kaiselia knows that Char is Casseval Rim Daikun. Of course, in UC-90, everyone now knows this. In a time of divide between Kaiselia and Girin, which direction would Casseval take? Would he rally new types against Xeon, or would he create a third party? This was a fear amongst many, as during this time, new types were seen as mere weapons of war. That is where the Chimera Corps comes in. They developed tactics and strategies for fighting new types. Early members of Chimera were also the first candidates used for cyber new type testing. Ingrid Zero and Uma Lightning were among the first guinea pigs. This was Chimera Corps' true intention. The camera cuts out. Led doesn't know what to think of Jacobius' testimony. He gave the testimony in the hopes that FSS will stop investigating Johnny Ridden. Rimia, as an engineer, is curious about what Hydra is. They move on to their next job, the Design Development Supporting System. When making a mobile suit, it consists of tens of thousands of manufacturing parts. Communication between different departments and different contractors all became a logistical nightmare. This brings prices up. Similarly, in the real world, this is why the cost of the F-22 is high, as a part of that machine in the manufacturing pipeline is built in literally every state by different contractors. So what they did is create a database collection of every single manufacturing part via CAD and CAM system. This will allow individual engineering teams to cross-reference all of the parts needed for a new design, and then they can eventually fabricate it in-house using a giant 3D printer. They print and build a new mobile suit, and use that data to feed back into the system to provide better suggestion algorithms. After the One-Year War, EFF and eventually Anaheim Electronics got their hands on it, and it revolutionized manufacturing of mobile suits. It essentially gives a high school student the power to build mobile workers with ease. But most importantly, this allowed for the mobile suit variation boom. From snipers to high mobility units, mobile suits can now be easily modified for certain environments. All documents of the system were destroyed, and the Federation and Anaheim Electronics made it all proprietary, and said screw the people and screw open source, this is ours. No one has fully disclosed this system to the public. Led isn't really interested in Hydra, as he is more nor the piloting type. Remia teases him about being called Johnny Ridden. He gets mad and offers her to meet his mother to prove it. Remia gets embarrassed as meeting a parent is an intimate act. She stomps on Led's foot when the elevator opens. They are going to visit Uma Lightning in the hospital. He wakes up and the first thing he says to Led is Johnny Ridden. Led punches him in the face. Remia asks why he thinks that Led is Johnny. He says that besides the eyes and the hair, he doesn't actually look like Johnny. It was his fighting style that makes him believe he is Johnny. It was also Broglie's judgment, he says. Broglie was the ball pilot we talked about in one of the first videos in this series. He indirectly puts out data about Johnny Ridden, so they will contact him and then he judges if Johnny Ridden is among them. It seems that the story Broglie told Remia and Led was a lie. Uma tells him that the story is actually true, but he wasn't an EFF pilot. He was a Chimera, or a Chimera proxy at least. Broglie is how Uma got wind of Led. He also mentions that Jacobius is going around killing Johnny Riddens. He asks if Remia is Johnny's girlfriend. This time, Remia punches Uma. The two make their leave. In Sweetwater, Siemens and a compatriot are meeting with Horst Harnest. Remember, Horst is a civil servant for Kaiser and Bayer during Char's rebellion in the future. We learn, however, that Horst was in Xion's military during the One-Year War, but worked in administrative services. Siemens' compatriot gives them privacy. Horst shows him a picture of a new battlecruiser that could go up against EFF's new Klopp-class ship. It doesn't have a name yet, but we know this as the Musaka class. Siemens wonders why they need this. It is for Xion, but not controlled by the puppet Haman Khan. No, this will be commanded by the true son of Xion, Shar Aznable. After a speech to the EFF government in Dakar pleading to denounce the Titans, EFF was willing to reduce power to the Titans, but still downplayed the fact that Quattro was Shar's Cassiville. He invited him to Sweetwater because they know that they are in possession of Minaret and that they would like it back. Horst mentions that it is a plant ship. It is 10 years old, but it is also 10 years ahead of its time. Research was stored there. Remember how Xionic gave EFF and Anaheim Electronics all its data? Well, it turns out they actually gave half to AE and the other half to EFF, knowing they would make it proprietary and never share any data with each other, thus dividing Earth's forces more. So they haven't moved on it because two people have two different parts of the key and they don't talk to one another. Bureaucracy in action. Simmons wonders why not just get the data, but Horst needs the Minaret. It is a self-sustaining ship that has the design development system built into it. Remember, this allows one to fabricate a mobile suit in a matter of days and can build an army with the quickness. Simmons wonders, what if he already gave it to EFF? Horst says if that was the case, there's no way they would not catch on to the Zabi's instrument of revenge. He says he can't give him an answer and will have to consult with Johnny Ridden, their leader. Which one? As he takes his leave, he contacts Emma, who was listening into the conversation. What is this instrument of revenge he was talking about? Emma doesn't seem to know either, but there were blocks in Minaret that only the captain and Johnny knew about, and possibly Aisha as well. We will find out that she was probably boning Johnny. He heads back to the moon. Simmons wonders if this has anything to do with why Jacobius is now Oxner's dog. At FSS, security notices something happening in the building and they go to check it out. It happened to be a break-in and someone destroyed all of the computer terminals, as well as Remia's Hato. She is furious and wants to murder whoever did this. One terminal was left untouched. Remia wants to check the serial number of the flight record on the core fighter that Led piloted. Scott helps them out. Remia also calls FSS member Aishwarya to help them out. Simmons makes it back to his ship and wonders why Oxner doesn't know the location of Minaret. Cristobal has to head down to Earth and ask Jacobius about what this instrument of revenge is exactly. The Minaret's navigation system is automated and randomized, but the Zanzibar ship, the Sangre Azul, can figure out Minaret's current location, but that ship is also under Oxner's control. It has been 10 years. Has he not figured it out yet? Emma is going to join Cristobal down on Earth, and the two will pretend to be Anaheim Electronics employees. He can't bring down his mobile suit with him, but that doesn't mean he can't commandeer one while on Earth. Aishwarya is a programmer and hacker. She figured out the remaining terminal has a Trojan horse, which is a terrorist tactic. Destroy everything but leave one thing intact with the virus, which will then affect the network once people try to use it. The key phrase to activate this virus happens to be Johnny Ridden. Meanwhile, back at Jaburo, Jacobius is trying to move it, or else they will find themselves in the middle of a battle soon. This it that he is talking about happens to be the Sangre Azul. When everyone thought Minaret was being held in Jaburo, it was actually just the key to get you to Minaret. And that will do it for this episode. We have finally learned details regarding Minaret and its power. If you played or read Rise of the Ashes, you probably already know what this instrument of revenge is. Don't spoil it for those who don't know. Next time, we will learn a lot about amphibious mobile suits designed to break into Jaburo. Yazan meets with Gop, and Led tries to break Uma Lightning out of the hospital. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember, if someone calls you by a different name, punch him in the face. Peace.